Hey, what's going on? Welcome to ednews.com. It's your host, EJ Carrion, and today we have Jeremy Edge, a licensed professional counselor with 7 years of experience, but really focusing on game addiction. And one of the topics we've been talking about in education is what does supporting students and their involvement with gaming and how should we be monitoring it? So I'm just really excited to talk to an expert, talk to a professional who has space in this. I have so much questions to ask, but in limited time, we're going to make this valuable. So let's give a big round of applause to Jeremy Edge.
Thanks for having me, Jeff.
So Jeremy, I would love to know, kind of what is, if I think a lot of people are even just wondering, is gaming an addiction? Is it something we should be seeing as an addiction? And what's kind of your discussion there?
Yeah, it's a good question. So the International Classification of Disease, basically a big diagnosis criteria with the World Health Organization, has identified gaming disorder as a full diagnosis. And so it's been published January 1st, 2022. So it just is fully now out there. But it is now categorized as a full problem and a full addiction. A lot of people are able to use games in a recreational way, but it is now as a problem, as a huge problem. It can be an addiction.
Yeah. So what is your, what is your background and story of why is this important to you? And if we don't take it more, prioritize it, what could be the ramifications as a country?
Yeah, it's a good question. So it's personal for me because I played games my whole life. As an adult, I saw that there was some problems with it. I was playing too much and not really focusing on my responsibilities or the things that were really important to me. I also was doing a lot of counseling. And so I was a fully licensed LPC, fully licensed professional counselor. And I saw a lot of my clients were also struggling the more and more we talked about how gaming was a really big problem for them personally. And so there wasn't really anyone talking about that specific category in the mental health field in my area. And so I was like, well, maybe I should be able to focus just on video games, just on screen use in general, to help in that space. More broad about what games are doing for our country and our society, there's more and more demand for video games. Microsoft and there's been these big acquisitions for a lot of video game companies. Video game industry, for example, is now worth around $178 billion in 2021. It's up about 14% from 2020. The pandemic has just basically exploded a lot of our focus on screen use and particular games because it's a way to connect, it's a way to have fun and socialize. And so it can be a really good thing, but it can also be problematic at times.
Well, a lot of our work at EdNews is obviously kind of around education and what we can do as teachers and school counselors and staff to support students. I always kind of feel like we're competing against video games, which is a game that we're always going to lose based on just kind of the investment and kind of talent that is making games entertaining. What is some of your advice for school educators or people who have teenagers walking around in their schools?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. So for educators, I would encourage to try to dialogue with your students to kind of see what they're playing and try to have a relationship of what they like about these games. And if possible, to try to integrate some of that into their learning and into the curriculum. I know it's obviously trying to hit a moving target because there's so many different games and so many different stuff out there. But if you can just kind of throw out a couple of key words of like, hey, like gaming terms that they know that may try to connect more with you. Hey, gosh, there's a new character in Valorant, or gosh, what are you building in Minecraft? Just throwing out some terms that they may know could help build a lot of rapport and connection with them, and then help say, okay, so what do you like about building in Minecraft? Let's say, kind of what do you like about that problem solving piece? And let's use that same problem solving skills you have to solve this math problem, or to be able to solve this complex problem in English or history or whatever it may be. Try to pull out, if possible, some of the pros of what in games and try to find that into the academic space if possible. At least have a conversation about it. A lot of times it's just for fun, they're just playing to have fun. But if they're able to have just a conversation about kind of what are you playing these days and what do you like about it, and to approach it with non-judgment or with no judgment, that would also be a really good way to help the relationship and to help the kiddo move towards what the teachers want to do.
Yeah. Well, what's some advice from now that it's kind of seen as a priority with the World Health Organization, and it's now classified the way it is, what is some advice for parents for early signs, or how they should have discussions and alerts to just be aware if their kids are not just playing video games, but actually possibly addicted to them?
Yeah, that's a good question, EJ. So there are a couple of things to look out for. If there's a preoccupation with games, more so than their responsibilities, where they're wanting to play games or they are playing games and not taking care of their personal health, their physical health, their mental health, their academic health, their relationships. And if they're just wanting to spend more and more time on games, let's say they're wanting to spend just half an hour, then it goes to 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. They want to spend more and more time online. That can be another sign. If they're losing interest in other activities that they used to enjoy, maybe they used to enjoy some type of hobby or basketball or sports or something, but they don't have any interest in that, and they just have interest in a game, then that's another sign of just to have a conversation about it. If there have been repeated attempts to say, hey, this is an issue, this is causing tension between us as parents and kiddo, your grades are failing, you're not spending time with friends, you're not showering every day, if people have told you that this is an issue, but there's still resistance, then it's good to say, look, let's talk about how we need to change things up because this isn't a healthy dynamic. Those are a couple of signs to be able to look out for if your kiddo, if your teen is experiencing maybe some gaming problems.
Yeah. Well, I know we kind of talked earlier, and I imagine we're close in age, and probably have super. I don't have kids, but if you had kids, they're probably not too older. And now you have the metaverse. You're having esports teams now at high schools, where high schools can have their own esports teams. It just seems more and more of a discussion we're going to have. What is something, as a parent, as a counselor, as kind of a thought leader in this space? What is the thing that you just kind of keeps highlighting on top of your head that you're thinking about or expecting or preparing for as this seems to be more of a thing moving forward?
Yeah, that's a great question. I kind of really see it as balance. I compare it a lot to food, right? How we use our screens and how we play video games can be similar to food. We could eat a cheeseburger, we could eat McDonald's every day. It's good, but it would be have a lot of problems if we ate just what we wanted to every day. But if we eat healthy fruits and vegetables and balance it out with a cheat day every now and then, have some cheeseburgers every now and then, but the majority of our intake is healthy, then we'll have healthy outcomes. The same thing is we can have a healthy time to connect with our friends online. We can have a good way to connect and to relax, after a long day of work. But if the majority of our time is just for entertaining, fun time, and not work, not productive, not social, not doing other things in the physical world, right? Then that can be a problem. If anyone's read Ready Player One, it seems very similar to the metaverse. And so, not sure what Mark's doing there, but there can be maybe some positives to it, but there also is another avenue to stay in this virtual world that's more controlled rather than it being in the physical space with others. So that's the one way I look at it. I also see that, games can be a healthy thing in someone's life, but it's just about balance. It's just about being able to balance it and it be a positive experience.
Yeah. Well, Jeremy, thanks for coming on ednews.com and just kind of giving us some insight. And I think if you want to know more about Jeremy and just kind of his expertise, escapingthe.com, that's how it's spelled. .com is the last part there. So escapingthe.com. There's resources. But also it's cool. It's impressive to see people out there being proactive on gaming as an addiction and helping families with it. So powers to you, and hopefully you're able to impact some lives.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on, EJ.